the game begins with e4, e5, and d4. So this is called the center game. I'm not too sure if white knows that, but you're just opening up the center right away. So we have takes, queen takes, and then knight c6, queen has to draw back, and then white decided to play this in a sort of Scandinavian style with queen a4. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, so that's fine. And we have d5 immediately, striking at white center. Yeah, and by center I mean just the e4 pawn. If you take, the black queen is going to take, and then there's a, and then I guess you could play knight c3. And if you don't take, I guess it's actually fine not taking here, honestly. But d5 is a good move because it opens up the bishop, opens up the queen. Yeah, and then white has to kind of figure out what they want to do here. So we have takes and then queen takes. And now knight c3 is really good here because you're gaining a tempo on the queen. So the queen has to move. And then you develop the rest of your pieces and then quickly castle as soon as possible. You can even castle queenside, by the way. Just move the bishop and then you're already there. So knight f3 instead. So we don't have knight c3. And now bishop d7. So bishop d7 is kind of lining up with the queen. And the threat here is actually knight b4. So let's say white plays something like this. Knight b4 just is basically game winning. Because you're threatening, not right now, but you're threatening the queen. And when the queen moves, let's say here, you exchange the queens and then there's a fork. So that's obviously not ideal. And white decided to play queen b3, trade the queens off right away. So we have check, and then the queens get exchanged. Bishop d3 is completely fine here, getting ready to castle kingside. I would have played bishop b5, because you're pinning the knight, and also you're kind of threatening to take the knight, and then the pawns are doubled and isolated. So that's pretty bad for black. And also on d3, the bishop is kind of a target for the knight, so that's also a consideration. But fine, we have bishop d3, castles, castles, and black castled queenside. Yeah, knight f6, just developing the knight, knight c3. The engine says knight b4 is really good here, because you win a pawn, and I guess the bishop pair too. But black didn't see that, of course. And we have bishop b4, which is fine. I mean, you're not pinning the knight, but the bishop is being developed nonetheless. And bishop d2, very good here, not letting black double up the pawns. And here we have a little bit of an inaccurate move here by black, which is taking on c3. You're just giving up the bishop for the knight for no reason. And now white has the bishop pair on an open board, which is very strong, if you know what it is. Whereas white just has two knights and a bishop, which is obviously worse than having the bishop pair. So we have bishop d5 with an interesting idea, trying to double up white's pawns on the king side. Honestly, I would just play knight e5 here. I guess knight d4 works too because it's defended by the bishop, but knight e5 centralizing the knight. If black decides to take, you still have the bishop pair. Now you don't have to deal with your king side being weak because of the pawns. So that's what I would probably play. White had the same idea but different execution. which is knight g5. The problem with that move is you're not threatening to take on f7 because it's defended. And also after h6, where are you going to go? If you go back to f3, the bishop is going to take, so you have to go to h3 instead. And the knight is on the edge of the board, which is not ideal. But yeah, knight f3 we have instead, and then takes. So yeah, this is already not what you want, especially on the side where your king is castled. Luckily for white though, the queens have already been exchanged, so it's not as bad, but still, I mean, there's 2 rooks and 2 knights. I mean, anything could happen, to be honest. And we have rook g8, which is a little bit weird. The g7 pawn is in the way of the rook, so the rook is not really doing anything on that square. And also, even if you try to move the g pawn, the knight is going to be hanging. And even if the knight wasn't hanging, you still have to invest a couple moves into this idea. And also, white is just going to play king h1 and rook g1, countering this threat. So definitely rook e8 would have been better, just placing it on an opened file. But yeah, we have king h1, which is actually the best move. Getting out of this g file and then maybe trying to put the rook in here. And also you have the bishop lining up on f6. So maybe there could be some tactics in the future with taking and then doubling up the pawns, and maybe some exchanges happen on the g file. But yeah, king h1, great move. Yeah, and then knight d5. I guess black didn't like the pawns being doubled up, which is fair enough. And we have bishop e4, just letting black take on c3, and not only does it double up the pawns, but also white is going to be losing the bishop pair, so that's kind of all the advantage gone right there. And also you have 2 doubled isolated pawns, like the same structure but on different sides, which is terrible. You don't want that. So bishop e4, and then instead of taking on c3, we have g6. Now I don't exactly understand g6. I guess the pawn is kind of weak on g7, so they pushed it, but now the bishop has more scope. I don't really understand it, to be honest. I think f5 might be the idea. Yeah, it's probably f5. Yeah, white had the opportunity to move the bishop, but didn't. So, yeah, and black moves back the knight instead of taking and doubling up the structure once again. I mean, that's kind of what you expect at this rating range. Not complete blunders, but just a lot of inaccurate moves. And sometimes mistakes. So yeah, knight e7. And then we have an exchange. And black, I don't understand why they didn't take with the rook, to be honest. The rook is just 10 times better. Get the opened file. And also you don't have to make a backwards move with your knight. And yeah, bishop f6 attacking the knight is actually a very good move. Taking advantage of these weakened dark squares. And yeah, let's see how black responds to this. Yeah, king d7. And now there's going to be this file for the rook here for white, and white did play that. And then not even capturing the knight, understanding that this knight on e7 is not good at all, and this bishop is very valuable, which is very good. So yeah, now we have f5, so I guess the idea of g6 was f5. Bishop drops back. It's a little bit difficult to see exactly why king f7 is a mistake, but you have to look for checks, captures, and attacks. And in this case, there's going to be a check with the bishop. If knight blocks, then you have a pinned piece. Rook e1 is coming, and goodbye. Goodbye, knight. And if you move the king, your rook is going to be hanging. So yeah, now it's just a matter of converting the game. So we have check, and then rook d1 attacking the knight. And also, it's actually very well played by white here, getting the rook onto the 7th rank with check and then taking these pawns, which is a very good idea. This is exactly how you should play. Takes, and then takes, and then we have rook g7 attacking the knight, and then attacking the pawn, and bishop g7 making sure that this pawn is lost. And yeah, knight d4, unfortunately, forgetting that bishops can move backwards. Yeah, a5, and black resigned here. So that was a very interesting game. I will have to say there is a lot less blunders that have been made, like around the 1000s and below. But this is kind of the range where you get into the intermediate area. Yeah, there's going to be less completely obvious blunders and more tactical ones. So if you managed to learn something from this video, I would appreciate a sub. Otherwise, this is it for today's video.